What a surprise. And you mentioned space, and now I'm back with the space article. I haven't had that in weeks, I feel. So it's about time. And it's a rather short notice, but we talked about the DART mission last year. So to have it full circle, I thought I'd bring this article from The Verge today because the what were they called? The Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. They released a paper confirming that the DART mission, in fact, was a big success, and it was altering the asteroid's orbit. So it proves that humans can actually deflect asteroids, and we can save humankind from the dangers from space. So that's already basically the main message of this article. They obviously also have a bit of a summary of what was this mission about, crashing a spacecraft into an asteroid, simple as that. And they concluded as well that the kinetic impactor technique used in the mission could be an effective mean of planetary defense, as they say it. And the debris that was launched from the impact point was actually more contributing to the momentum change than the impact itself. That was also kind of a new finding in that regard. But yeah, we can save ourselves, but it's also mentioned that we need sufficient warning time, ideally decades in advance, or at least several years at a minimum, so that we can really, get active and avoid it. But they also mentioned that as of now, there is no known asteroid that is, becoming a threat for the Earth for at least the next century.
As
so
far
we're
as
good.
we know.
We're good for now, as of now, there's no danger. But yeah.
Yeah, but this was exactly my first thought when you said that this is a very bold statement from, let's say, a product manager, right? We now know that we can save the planet from killer asteroids, but then there is this list of disclaimers, and as long as we are warned decades in advance, and then the asteroid fits exactly this predefined sizes, and right, exactly, and it only contains these materials and has exactly this in-flight vector, but then we can save the planet.
Then we're good. Yeah,
no
and
problem at all.
We now have to make sure as well, right, that we transfer this knowledge to other generations to come. Because if we do not need to become active, then it's nothing like an old paper somewhere at the Johns Hopkins lab. And when it actually, the danger comes, nobody knows what to do. So
Right.
Sorry, Tarek, no.
No, I just want to make a joke. Just like the usual.
Please make it now.
It's like 100 years from now, when the asteroid will hit the Earth, they will find this old paper and they said, hey, did you know that 100 years from now, we actually found out that we would have been able to divert this asteroid? Good to know. I found it on Reddit. Space Reddit.
A stupid question at that point. I mean, Enrique, yes, never say never, of course. There are always things we don't know. But usually we have that knowledge in advance, decades, aren't we?
Usually, yes. But yeah, I mean, space is big, and you just have to make sure that you always look in the right direction and you see what's coming. So, I mean, it could happen. And there were some cases where asteroids really passing by the Earth quite at quite a short distance, and not always have they been aware of how close this actually was. So it's really then also a matter of, do we realize it's a danger? Like, we know something is coming, but do we realize that it can actually have impact on Earth or not, and this kind of things? And then being 100% sure decades in advance is probably, it can be difficult still.
I mean, I don't. And now we're back at AI. I don't want to go too deep into that. I mean, it would be interesting to understand, to feed AI with the information that we have from the DART mission and the preparation needed in that time. And I would love to understand what potentially AI, for example, says, how much time we actually need in a moment of crisis, right? So now, I mean, this was just a test, but how many years do we actually need until we can get something off the Earth? Maybe even just months or weeks. I imagine that this is more or less something that we could do if necessary, but I don't have the knowledge for that. And I would love to understand what computers think of our abilities, because just as you said, sometimes you're not aware, it's a human mistake. And this is definitely a field where AI potentially could help us.
Yeah, the question there is what kind of data you feed into this AI to train it. And with this one experiment that we have from the DART mission, it's probably not enough data to actually feed an AI to make better predictions than the one that we just did with this one asteroid. I could imagine that they are already running a lot of simulations exactly with how much explosives do we need if the asteroid has double the size or double the speed or something like that, or has a different trajectory, or what is the emergency plan if we only get 1 year of warning in advance? How can we change the variables to somehow still get out of this without crash?
I mean, explosives were not involved, right? Just because you mentioned it
sure.
now, it was just the impact and yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is the answer to a question that was not asked yet.
No, Tarek, I agree with you that DART mission alone is just not enough to train AI sophisticated or well enough to actually understand how long we need. However, fortunately, I mean, all of the different aspects of the DART mission are things that we do on a very regular basis, right? Flight paths through space are something that we calculate very often. Also involving, I think, up to medium-sized objects. I mean, Mars would be probably the biggest that we actually... I mean, I don't know how Voyager was calculated. I'm pretty sure that, of course, this is data before our time now. Anyways, doesn't matter. What I wanted to say is I think all of these several elements, and it would be interesting to know if, for example, NASA or ESA, or maybe even the Pentagon with its own Space Force, which I think actually exists, not only in the show.
They exist.
Yeah. I would love to know if they potentially are doing something right now, because I mean, obviously having an AI trained on the way humans work with elements in space for a lot of reasons, and not only for a real DART mission, well, I think would be very beneficial for us.
Yeah. I was just thinking about why I was talking about explosives, but this is probably because I saw this interesting documentation with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck about how they exploded this asteroid and saved the Earth.
That was a good one.
Yeah, this was a great documentation.
Yeah.